Sorry. So we're now live. Thank you. So just for anyone that may be online watching, it's 9:55, so we've still got 5 minutes to go. So we're just waiting until 10 o'clock to start. Rightio, so that's 10 o'clock. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the ordinary meeting of the Douglas Shire Council being held on Wednesday, 27th of January 2021 at the Mosman Council Chambers. I hereby give notice that in accordance with section 277E of the Local Government Regulations 2012 that the ordinary meeting of Council will be restricted in numbers to public access because of the health and safety reasons associated with the public health emergency involving COVID-19. The ordinary meeting of council will be available to view via live stream on council's website and available for others to view if they wish to at a later time. I'd like to acknowledge the Guugu people who are the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I'd also like to pay respect to the elders both past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to other Indigenous Australians who may be listening or watching our meeting this morning. Note all councillors present, thank you very much, because our CEO's here, and we have our limited amount of staff in the room to allow for a gallery. And we've also got our media here, which is nice to see, but it's been a while since we've had media in the room. No conflicts of interest. No mayoral minutes, so we'll go on to the confirmation of the minutes. The minutes of the ordinary meeting held on Tuesday the 15th of December 2020. If I could have a mover, please. Councillor McEwen, seconded by Councillor Scomerson. Any comments regarding those minutes? Anyone against? No. So all those in favour, put that to the vote. Carried, thank you. We'll move on to the minutes from the 12th of January. The minutes of the special meeting held on Tuesday, 12th of January 2021. I could have a mover, please. Councillor Scomerson. I'm happy to second that one. Anyone, any comments? Any? No? Put that to the vote. All those in favour then? And that's carried. All right, so that takes us on to the agenda items. Our first one, of course, is 5.1, the material change of use for a hotel wine bar at 57 Front Street, Mosman. Okay, the recommendation is that the council approves the development application for a material change of use hotel-wine bar over land described as Lot 3 on RP 836113 and Lot 2 on RP 804918, subject to the following. And then it's got the terms and conditions. If we have a mover, please. Councillor Nolly, seconded. Councillor Zamataro. Councillor Nolly, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you. Not a lot to say. I think it looks like a fairly straightforward material change of use, as far as I understand. Nothing has brought alarm bells for me, so I'm very happy to move this recommendation.
Thank you. Would anyone like to speak against it? Any further comments from councillors?
I'd just like to thank Paul for having the will to have a go at something new in town, changing a couple of really old buildings and bringing them up to life, and I hope he does well. It's good to see shops opening.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fantastic to see that whole building being cleaned up, and will only be an asset to Mosman.
Yep.
All right, with that, we'll put it to the vote then. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. The reports are getting so good, you don't even need to ask questions. All right. 5.2, storm tide inundation mythology study. The recommendation is that council adopts in principle the draft storm tide inundation mythology study prepared by JBA Pacific Scientists and Engineers Private Limited, with the final version being reviewed and approved by the Chief Executive Officer, and such final versions being considered as council's best practice position for determining the 1.1% AEP storm tide inundation for the year 2100, having regards to AHD sea level rise. If I could have a mover, please. Councillor Scomerson, seconded by Councillor Noel, got in on that one. Councillor Scomerson, would you like to speak to this?
No, I found it very interesting, just to see what is proposed maybe for the future. So it's a good report. Yeah, good on you.
Anyone wish to speak against? Any further comments from councillors?
It's just a very important report, obviously.
Yeah.
Can't be understated how important it is. We're fantastic.
Just through the mayor, just obviously with the findings of this most recent study, we also feed into the disaster management investigations and highlighting areas of land that are more prone to flooding and storm surge in case of natural disasters. So it's going to be a lot more accurate than the study that we've got at the moment. So it's going to be a lot more efficient use of resources, getting to those targeted people at the appropriate time.
Through you, Mayor, and I think that's something that this report is something that we have to concentrate on when we're looking at future development as well. It's going to tell us where we can and can't develop and go ahead. I think it's very important to us.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. As we move forward, reports like this will be guiding us as far as how we do it and what we do there. So
There'll be legal, legally we'd have to follow this report, I suppose, with recommendations, staff recommendations, is that correct?
We'd
exactly.
be obligated to
Yeah,
obviously,
that's the word.
endorse the findings and make sure people and property are safe in the future.
How long ago was the last one done?
2012, 2013.
Okay.
Yeah.
Under care.
Has it changed a lot?
It was quite a conservative flood investigation.
The previous one?
Yeah. So the upshot of that was it resulted in quite higher flood levels and flood levels. So and that led to a fair bit of frustration, both internally with us, but also in the industry in terms of identifying what those levels are. These latest levels are a lot more realistic, and I'm sure they'll be embraced by the community.
Right.
Just one question, thanks. Through the Mayor. So when people put in DAs now, especially on coastal building, we would refer to these maps to advise
Absolutely.
either not against it or.
Yeah, we'd be looking at these findings to inform those decisions. And
Yeah.
where we've got the current study saying one level, we'd be inclined to rely on this study
Yeah.
to determine that.
Yeah.
That's all.
thank you. All right, with that, we'll put it to the vote then. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, 5.3, Safe Places Emergency Accommodation Funding Agreement. The recommendation is the council resolves to enter into a funding agreement with the Australian Government under the Safe Place Emergency Accommodation Grant to construct emergency accommodation in the Douglas Shire. Enter into a head lease arrangement with domestic violence service provider to manage and maintain the buildings for the period of 15 years. Commit the property to operating as an emergency or crisis accommodation for the minimum of 15 years and delegate authority under Section 257 of the Local Government Act 2009 to the Chief Executive Officer to administer the above matters. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Noley, thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Zamataro. Councillor Noley, I'm sure you'd love to speak on this one. It's one of your passions.
Thank you very much. Yeah, absolutely. I would have been upset if I couldn't move it, actually. So thank you. Okay, thank you for the report. I'd just like to give a little bit of a background from my point of view. When I became a councillor in 2014, one of the things that I did was obviously getting involved in the Community Access Network group, and I was actually quite shocked to hear about the amount of domestic violence happening in our community. I will say I was completely ignorant of the amount that there was. And probably a lot of the community doesn't realise just how much domestic violence occurs here. I have been personally very lucky, and probably that was why I never really realised. So from 2014, it became, I suppose, something that I decided that I would like, and collaborative, all the councils never had a problem with it, to really, try to tackle. So it became quite a regular initiative on following year's operational plans, and we did the steps, we did the processes, and I suppose today we're really at the final hurdle, aren't we, really, guys? So I have to thank, obviously, fellow councillors and obviously the staff for carrying out the instructions, I suppose, or the initiatives that have come in the previous year's operational plans to come to this. So I'm very happy that today it's there, basically. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done.
Anyone wish to speak against it? Any further comments from councillors regarding the motion?
Just a great asset for the Shire.
Well done.
Absolutely. No, I agree totally with Councillor Nolly. This has been something that I think is very hidden. A lot of people don't know how big it is in this shire, and having a facility like this is just going to be an asset for us. With that, we'll put it to the vote. Sorry, yes. Yep.
Can I say to you, Mayor? Just a question to Mr. Crowley and Mr. Golding. With this enter a lease agreement with domestic violence service provider, they'll be in control of the building. Council won't have any
We are,
jurisdiction over it?
sorry, Terry. We're yet to finalise any arrangement with the service provider, but we've been in, one of our key partners is Access Community Housing, who run similar community housing everywhere, and they're very happy to take on the tenancy side of this in partnership with the specialist domestic violence counselling type service to look after the counselling side. So the idea is that we don't run a property council, apart from football fields, etc. You know, it's not our area of expertise to run that kind of tenancy changeover. So yeah, we would be looking at handing over as much as possible.
So it falls on the shoulders of these organisations that run a professional organisation.
Exactly.
So from council's perspective, we'll just be the landlord that owns the property itself and would do maintenance, etc. on the building if there's any faults, like any normal landlord.
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
Just, all right, with that then, as I said, we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Up to 5.4, application for temporary road closure of a part of unnamed road adjoining lots 1 to 6 on C2254 and Reeson's Road, Craiglee. Recommendation is the council delegates authority under section 257 of Local Government Act 2009 to the Chief Executive Officer to execute a form Part C as road manager, advising the Department of Natural Resources and Mines and Energy, DNRME, that the council cannot authorise proposed temporary road closure over part of an unnamed road reserve adjoining lots 1 to 6 on C2254, identified in the locality map attached to this report, and Dreeson's Road, Craiglee. However, it requests DNRME to consider an application under the Land Act in relation to this matter. Advises DNRME that it has no objections to the proposed application for a temporary road closure over unnamed road reserve adjoining lot 1 to 6 on C2254 and Dreeson's Road, Craiglee, and then delegates authority to the Chief Executive Officer in accordance with section 257 of Local Government Act 2009 to finalise all matters associated with this application. Have a mover, please. Councillor Scomerson, seconded by Councillor Nolly. Seconded?
Yeah.
Councillor Scomerson, would you like to speak to it?
The only question I have with this is, so it's not a council road that we're wanting to close? It's a state road?
Through the chair, yes, state road.
State road,
Yeah,
right.
and it's a temporary road licence, so at any point in time, council wishes to have that road reopened, we advise DNRME and the people have the road licence, 3 months notice to vacate.
Right. So the cane farm that's there, the cane, they don't need that access on that part of the road to get to their cane fields?
We don't believe so, and that'll be all in consideration when it goes out to the public record.
Right, okay, thank you.
Anyone wish to speak against? Any other questions or comments from councillors? That then we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Okay, so we've got 5.5, application for permanent road closure adjoining lot 204 on SP 264765 Captain Cook Highway, Killaloe. Recommendation is that council delegates authority under section 257 of the Local Government Act 2009 to the Chief Executive Officer to execute a form Part C as road manager, advising the Department of Natural Resources and Mines and Energy, DNRME. The council cannot authorise a proposed permanent road closure over part of an unnamed road reserve adjoining lot 204 on SP 264765, identified by the locality map attached to this report. Captain Cook Highway, Killaloe. However, it requests DNRME to consider an application under the Land Act in relation to this matter. Advises DNRME that it has no objections to the proposed application for a permanent road closure over unnamed road reserve adjoining lot 204 on SP 264765, Captain Cook Highway, Killaloe, subject to the following condition. The applicant must provide the necessary easements to accommodate access to the aircraft beacon and stormwater discharge where necessary. Delegates authority to the Chief Executive Officer in accordance with Section 257 of the Local Government Act 2009 to finalise any and all matters associated with this application. I have a mover, please. Anyone wish to move? Councillor Scomerton. Seconded by, I'm happy to second it to get it on. Councillor Scomerton, did you wish to speak to this?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. The application that was that received from the prawn farm, the landowner of the prawn farm, to close the road?
Through the chair, it was received from a consulting firm represented by the owner of the prawn farm.
Okay, so the other question is, so how did they get access into the prawn farm? Is there another access?
The proposal will be that those two allotments, which are separate allotments now, will be amalgamated into one allotment, and therefore that negates any need for access to separate allotments. However, we would insist that an easement is created there so we can have access to the other stormwater discharge into the beacon as well, which must be unimpeded access at all times.
Right.
The reason why that they wish to close that road is because of biosecurity reasons. These people were down the Gold Coast and about 18 months, 2 years ago, the big outbreak of Wastewater, and they're prawn farm, so they relocated that road.
Right. So this is the same road that we brought to council a couple of months about renaming it. So are we going to go ahead with that little tiny piece of road that's going to be left to rename that one, or we just?
Through the chair, I believe so, that will still be the case.
That's all.
So a sign still, sorry.
Sorry, just see if anyone wants to speak against it, first of all. Councillor Zamtara?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. That road, when we named Old Ferry, we decided to name Old Ferry Road, wasn't for that section, it was for the whole road, was it not?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
That's correct. Now, I can't understand why the same applicant wanted to rename the road and now wants to close the road. Council have agreed unanimously to name the road Old Ferry Road. Now all of a sudden it has to be closed. I don't support that. I think we should leave it Old Ferry because it was historic. The reason we didn't name it Old Ferry Road because it had historic value.
I'd have to take that on notice because I don't know that historical part. But prior to this application, the report being prepared, all council departments are asked to comment on the proposal, and we did not receive any adverse comments back. And we only found out this morning, basically, that was renamed about 5 months ago through the council. Now, that information has not been sent to the title office or DNRME to put on all the mapping systems that we use in the council. But we'll address that situation now so it doesn't happen in the future. If council does not wish to sign the Form C, that is the end of the story. The applicant cannot make application to DNRME to close the road.
Any further comments, Councillor Nolan?
Good question, thank you. So just to understand, if we approve this recommendation, the road gets closed and no sign goes up. Is that correct? No name to name that road. Is that correct? Is that how that works?
Through the chair, if council approve CEO will execute Form C,
Yeah.
it will go out to public comment.
Yeah.
And yes, that signage will go up for that section of road which faces number 6460 on Captain Cook Highway. That little section of road there is probably about 60 metres. It will still be named that.
Okay.
Any other comments from councillors?
Through the chair, just a question. When you talk about reasons for biosecurity, is it because people have access to that they're worried about, do you think?
According to the applicants, there are trucks to, I think that's the Killarney tip road, and they drive their trucks down there, then have to get down there before they can turn around and come back again.
If I can, there's no other businesses down there. There's no reason for anyone else to need to drive down that road, is there?
No. Mr. Mayor.
So I can understand where they're coming from that respect, because it's also security. Councillor Nolan?
Thank you. So if it is closed, then they have the capacity to put in a barrier, like to stop.
Through the chair,
Physically
yes, they
stop
can put up
vehicles,
a gate,
Yeah, something like that.
but however, they'll have to create an easement so there's access to road services.
Yes.
Further with the other
Yeah.
allotments.
And that gate would, or that barrier, whatever you want to call it, would be approximately on this map. It couldn't be closer to the Captain Cook Highway than those yellow lines on 6460, is that
Through the
correct?
chair, no. couldn't
Yeah.
be.
Okay.
And that will all be put to the public and it goes out to public consultation.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll also add that I'm aware that I know that there's residents just north of this road that are constantly complaining about dust and dirt coming off that road also. So that's something that should be considered. Any other comments from councillors? Right, with that, we'll put it to the vote then. All those in favour of the motion? So it's Councillor McEwen, Councillor Kerr. All those against? Councillor Scollison, Councillor Noley, Councillor Donataro. So the motion is not passed. All right, 5.6. We have the contract WA 5040-02, Donovan Range pavement upgrade. Now, the recommendation is council resolves to award contract WO 5040-02 to Donovan Range pavement upgrade to Geo Construct Proprietary Limited for $2,617,323.85. Throw that 85 in. Delegates authority under section 257 of the Local Government Act 2009 to the Chief Executive Officer to negotiate, finalise and execute any and all matters in relation to this contract. Have a mover, please.
I'll move it for the sake of speaking about it.
Thank you, Councillor Noley. I'll second it to get it on the floor. Councillor Noley, would you like to speak to it?
I suppose I've got less to speak to it and more along the lines of questions when it's time. Thank you.
Anyone wish to speak against the motion? Councillor Zamtaro.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. Look, I'm looking at the tender prices here, and there's a local company there that's actually $403,000 less than what the successful tender has been. And I know that the report does say that, Geo Construct they've identified the methodology. I would assume that the other company, the local company, would have all their ducks in a row and have all their contractors ready. They would have had contractors ready that were capable of carrying out the job. I find it hard that in this time and the way we're going at the moment, and especially with promoting Do It in Douglas, we're giving this job to a Cairns company when there's a local company that's going to employ use local products, employ local contractors for $403,000 less. I find it hard to understand why they weren't awarded the tender.
I think, if I may put it in a term, that these are now very public, and public are seeing these as well, and questions are coming back to us regarding the percentages, and I think it's important that the staff explain the percentages and how they work and how they can fluctuate to giving a decision that may not be clear as far as what the recommendation is.
Through the chair, we undertake a weighted scoring system, and it's shown in the report. Price only contributes 40% to the weighting, and a number of other factors are considered, including the local component. From the local component, it is difficult for us to assess a local to be substantively different from someone who is effectively only an hour down the road in Cairns. When you look at it in a context that we get people from Cairns, we get people from Queensland, we sometimes get people from Australia-wide doing projects, and we need to be able to score them across there. Of course, the person who's local generally gets the score highest, but when they're competing against someone who's in perhaps Brisbane, the scoring mechanism doesn't allow us to. It doesn't make a large difference overall. It's a score out of 100, and it's a couple of points here and there. There was a substantive difference between the first-ranked tenderer and the tenderer that you're referring to. It's approximately 10 points overall. We look at all of the criteria.
Points or percentage?
Points percent, in this case, the same thing. We look at all the criteria, and in the case that you're talking about, the local tenderer didn't provide us sufficient information in their tender documentation across some of those other criteria. So as a consequence, they get a lower score. You can't necessarily be the cheapest price and perform not as well in the other criteria. It just doesn't work like that.
The criteria also states the tender was comparative and conforming as well. So.
Yeah, it's a conforming tender, but there's a level of documentation. We have a number of criteria in there as well. We're comfortable that the contractor that we're selecting or recommending for selection can do the project well for us.
Councillor Nolan?
Did you want to say something?
No, please go ahead.
This is just a generalised observation, and this is not a comment about this report specifically. It's I'd just like to point out to the public like how difficult it is also from council's point of view. This is the only information we're given, and $400,000 is not peanuts. It's not even $40,000, which you might say, oh yeah, that sounds okay. That sounds like a lot to my ears. And I'll repeat, no criticism at all, but given that graph, it's very difficult for me to put my hand on my heart and say, give it to someone. I do realise that now down the road is not a lot, but it is still something that's not in the Shire. And I find it very, very difficult with this information to not give the contract to the cheapest, which, by the way, is from the Shire. So this is the problem I'm facing at the moment with this decision.
So as councillors, we have three options. The first is we accept the motion as it stands. The second is that we can move to an alternate supplier. Or third, we could defer this and request further information from staff so that we can look at details that may, be able to assist us in our decision making. Councillor Nolan?
So I was wondering about the deferment. My question on that is that how much then does that become like a closed session?
No.
And that was my concern, because can it come back in another report with more information? How much can we discuss? How much in depth can we put into a report so that it gives confidence also to the public that councillors are, if it has to be slightly more expensive one, okay, but it's got to be proven that is the correct choice. So my question is, yes, maybe defer it, but will it make a difference in the end by deferring?
Is there a councillor who would like to move an alternate motion then?
Could I just say something before we go to that? It's I've received so many phone calls in relation to this this one. I also have other not questions, but I've been asked a lot of other questions about the one we did at Killaloo recently. Now, this is nothing against the staff on how they do their job, but as elected members of council, and with the information that we have, it's very hard for me to sit down with someone and say, okay, this is why, this is why it would have gone somewhere else, without knowing all the details. It may be that it ends up there, but when people are questioning me on why does council do this, and yet all we have is this information, it's very hard to come out with an exact reason. That's where my concern is just being able to explain to people, like, we have the percentages, but it could be that, and not just that tender, of a few tenders that we've done, it may be that the people who put it in just aren't experienced enough, and there we go. But I would like to be able to somehow workshop or do something so that we've got a bit more information that I can confidently sit down in front of someone. And like, this is not the tenderer, these are the contractors that are saying it's a ratepayer's money, yet we're sending it to Cairns. And then, and like a few have said, they said, we know that they will not use local contractors for these jobs. So, there's no real benefit to them as a ratepayer.
Also, unfortunately, this is one of the fallouts from Belcara.
Yeah.
These laws were changed by the state governments. These contracts used to be in a closed session, which means there was a confidentiality with the suppliers, to allow us to be able to get full details of everything. Unfortunately, the contracts that are put in with these suppliers, they're entitled to their confidentiality when they're doing things. And so not everything can be put in the public domain now because of that. And this is something that all councils are currently working through, and it's certainly something that we're feeding back to the LGAQ about. But in the meantime, we're stuck with this situation. We have to continue the process. For Thomason?
Yeah, the information that we've received regarding this, I don't believe is enough for us to make a decision. This selection criteria here, to me, doesn't give us any information whatsoever. Normally, we used to get something that showed the weighting of what between the different companies. This map here means nothing to me, so I could make a decision from that. The other things that I have concern about, and it's a lack of information again, is that the company states that they can that they're a Cairns-based contractor and they'll be utilising subcontractors from the Douglas Shire. And a lot of the phone calls I have, the possibility of that is very, very slim. The other problem I have is the economics of the Shire, that they'll use hotels, accommodation, cafes. Well, where they're going to be doing the road, there's no local cafe for a while, so accommodation. So, we promote Do It in Douglas, Build Douglas, Buy Douglas, and $400,000 to me, I know it's a grant money, but $400,000 is a huge difference, and I believe that the leftover money could be utilised somewhere else in the Shire. So unless, but the information I want to know is why the other contractors that have submitted their tender couldn't conform to what you're expecting. So
I think it's best at this point, we know where we're all coming from the same direction. Is it a case we wish to move to defer this, or is this a case that we wish to move an alternate motion?
Look, sorry, Megan, through one of the problems I have with this also is that these jobs, they're concreting jobs as well. They're just not people that are held, cowboys and thrown in. Every pour is inspected by an engineer, is that correct, council engineer? So they can't get away with not doing it right, what I mean. So every pour is inspected by council engineer. Steel has to be correct, everything has to be correct. So every pour is inspected by council engineer. That's why I assume, that's what I would like to see, this, a local company take this on. And from then, I think we can, if we start these local companies doing these bigger jobs, we're talking about a $2.2 million job. And we continue to use local companies, and they've done it, they've had the experience, and a lot of these guys have had the experience in this type of work as well. I know one of the issues, they don't know how to submit, they probably don't submit the right applications how they should. The application's probably not the right word, they probably don't submit the right tenders. Can't answer the tender questions you ask them, but I think they know how to do the job, and they've got all their ducks in a row about how they're going to do it. So It's all going to be inspected by council, it's not going to be done.
So from that, are you saying you'd like to move forward a recommendation to resolve to award the contract to the Mossman MC Group?
That's correct, yes.
Well, we'll move that motion now that Councillor Zamataro has put it up. So is there a seconder that wishes to agree to the motion of resolving to award the contract to MC Group Queensland Proprietary Limited?
Before we move that, can I discuss that, please? Because I-
Councillor Zamataro has put it up, so let's just, you can argue within that. Okay. Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Scotterton? Okay. So, Councillor Zamataro, would you like to say anything further to that recommendation since you've moved it?
Oh, no, I think I've said what I want. I want to see local companies getting employed and local contractors getting employed. It's been a hard year for everybody. I think we need to be shown as a council that we're employing, keeping employment local and giving as much council work to locals as we can to keep the economy, continue the economy growing in Mossman, in the Douglas Shire, sorry.
Okay. Would anyone like to speak against that? Councillor Noel.
Okay, so in theory, I would like to support the MC Group, but I also don't want to go the opposite direction and jump to a conclusion without having full information. So, so I would much prefer to defer this, get all the information, because that might be the recommendation might be correct. That might be the wrong way to go if we don't have the information. So as much as I'd like to eventually maybe give it to a Douglas Shire business, I don't want to also not do my job, not investigate, not have the information by going down this amendment immediately. So I won't support that, I'm sorry, not immediately.
So we'll put that motion of the change to the vote for those who wish for the change to happen. All those in favour of the change to happen? Councillor Sconnells and Councillor Zamataro. All those against? Councillor McEwen, Councillor Nolan, Councillor Kerr. So I'm now going to move a motion to defer it so that councillors can request further information. If I can have a seconder on that, please. Councillor McEwen. Is anyone against deferring it? With that motion? Moving move forward? Okay, so we'll put that to the vote then in the fact of, shall we change the motion to defer it? That's right, or do we just defer it? Just deferring them. So we're just going
Can I ask a question before we actually vote on that? Yes? Come on, it's important. It's simple, it's important. If we defer it and come back to another council meeting, will we come back with more information?
Same information will be in the report, but we'll give you as a councillor a chance to send an email through to staff personally requesting an information. I believe that is correct.
Yes, and I'd suggest that we bring it to a workshop for discussion, and I've actually suggested that that's a standard process going forward.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so all those in favour of deferring it? That's Councillor McEwen, Councillor Sconnells, Councillor Nolan, Councillor Kerr. All those against? Councillor Zamataro. Thank you. All right, 5.7, the financial report for December 2020. If I could have a mover, please. I'm happy to move that. Seconded by Councillor Scommerson. Again, these reports are very thorough. They carry everything, all the information that we need to know. I'm absolutely urge people to get online and look at these reports and have a look and see what council's doing and where they're up to financially. Anyone like to speak against it? Any further comments from councillors then?
Great information.
Absolutely. Ms. Colleen, is there anything at all that you wanted to put across from it?
Through the chair, the only thing I would like to pass on is that the ferry did very well in December. They had a lot of custom through, and as at November, we're about 80,000 behind the revised budget, and that's been brought back into about 40,000. So that was really good news. We just hope that January has also been a good month for the ferry. It's good to see a lot of locals and domestic travellers getting around.
Can I just ask one question? You know, the bus ferry travel refund, how much longer is that? We had a date on that.
Yeah, that
End.
that ended at the end of December.
End of December.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No other comments, then we'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. 5.8, the complaints about public official policy. The recommendation adopts the complaints about the public official policy as per section 48A of the Crime and Corruption Act 2001 and delegates authority to the Manager of Governance under section 257 of the Local Government Act 2009 to incorporate any administrative changes required to the policy following the review by the Crime and Corruption Commission. If I can have a mover, please. Get Councillor McEwen. Seconded by Councillor Scomerson. Councillor McEwen, would you like to speak to it?
I think it's all pretty straightforward. We've been through it.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak against?
I'd like to ask some questions, maybe.
Absolutely, please, Councillor Zantaro.
Just, consultant, just a couple of things I want to clarify, I probably don't understand them. Page 77, the policy application. Top, if there are grounds to suspect that the complaint may involve corrupt conduct of the CEO or council and to all councillors and employees and contractors of council. What does that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, what that means, councillor, is that if any council staff, anyone has any suspicions or concerns with corrupt behaviour,
Okay.
the first point of call is.
So it doesn't apply, that it's not, it doesn't apply
No,
to
it's-
councillors, the way I've read it.
This is the standard one that the CCC has sent through to us.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
so that's pretty much just means that anyone has an inkling or have got suspicious reasons that it goes through the CCC.
And one more for that.
Yeah.
Another one on 79, consultation with the CCC. The CEO will consult with the CCC when preparing any policy about how council will deal with a complaint that involves or may involve corrupt conduct of the CEO.
Yes, again, through you, Mr. Mayor, this is, and I questioned that when I sent the policy through. That's the template that the CCC give us. Every other council is word for word. Yes, the policy is
I
about.
understand it's possible, but I don't understand. How does that work? Like, they have to see, the CEO will deal with
Yeah,
the complaint
they send it
himself.
through. Well, if we were to get a complaint about the CEO can actually ring up to CCC and say, hey, listen, I've got a complaint about me, then they step away. That's the way the CCC deal with it. It is very public servant interesting matter.
It doesn't read like that, that's the way it's written, it reads it.
I understand where you're coming from again, but this is the template that the CCC has given us, so.
I just need to clarify that to me, it reads different.
So just on expanding that, so basically that's word for word, is it?
Yes, yeah, so I'm waiting back for a review from them. They review it, they see that we've reviewed it and updated it for any staff. Again, it comes back from the CCC if they're happy with it, and we just make any changes.
It's like he's sending himself to the rules.
Mr.
Or
Storm.
she, he
Or
or
she.
she, he or she.
Mr. Storm.
Oh, I was just going to comment through you, Mayor, that looks like it's about preparing any policy. I've stepped right away from this and I've completely delegated everything to the Manager of Governance. So while I'm in this chair, anything will go through the Manager of Governance, whether or not that's, you know.
So I want to understand, sorry, through me, that any complaint against CEO, you determine whether it's worthy of a complaint, is that correct?
If a complaint comes in through a member of the public, a councillor or a staff, or through the CEO itself, under the policy, I am to report it through to the CCC for the determination. They will look at it and they let us know whether it is corrupt behaviour defined under the Economic Corruption Act. If it's not, then it will be referred through not a different policy, but a different procedure. If it is corrupt behaviour, the CCC come in and take over that. If it's not corrupt behaviour and it's depending on the nature of the complaint, it'll go through the processes of dealing with the complaint about a staff member. And that we'll have the delegation and authority to engage a third party, so it takes it out of HR hands or managers, and a third party will coordinate with the mayor regarding the complaint.
Sorry, just to cut. So does this policy dictate that you make the decision whether it needs to go further as well?
No, I have to.
You
I'm
have to go.
obligated to send that straight through the CCC. Yeah, there's guidelines under the Crime Commission Act to point you whether you pretty much, if in doubt, report, and the CEO also, if a complaint comes direct to him about him, he can refer that straight to the CCC.
Thank you.
Through the mayor. So the IOA.
That's councillors of civilian
Councillors,
and
right.
assessors.
So, yeah. So at the moment, if you put a complaint in the IOA and they take it to the CCC.
That's under a different, yeah, that's
policy
different from a
altogether.
CEO to a councillor, yeah.
You're in big trouble.
Yeah. So that'd go through the tribunal and through the CCC.
Wonderful. All right, so we'll put that to the vote then. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. 5.9, provision of superannuation for councillors. That the council contributes a maximum 12% superannuation contribution to superannuation funds or schemes, complying with the Commonwealth superannuation legislation for elected members who wish to participate as per section 226 of the Local Government Act 2009. Provides for councillors who make voluntary superannuation contributions of at least 6% to receive 12% contributions on those payments. Provides for those councillors who do not wish to make voluntary contributions to receive the standard superannuation guarantee payment of 9.5%, and provides that where a councillor chooses to make a voluntary contribution, that this can be contributed from pre-tax or post-tax. I'd like to have a mover, please. Councillor Scomerton, seconded by Councillor Zamataro. Councillor Scomerton, would you like to speak to it?
Yeah, no, it's all standard.
Anyone wish to speak against? I just wanted to comment that this isn't a new thing. This is just a document or a policy, in case anyone's wondering, that, you know, just enforces what's already in place, so that the public are aware. So with that, we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? And it's carried. Thank you. All right, 5.10, Water and Wastewater Quarterly Report for the period ending 31st of December 2020. The recommendation, it is recommended that the quarterly report of the Water and Wastewater Branch for the period ending 31st December 2020 be received and noted. I have a mover, please. Councillor Nolly just got in there, and Councillor Scomerton seconded. Councillor Nolly, would you like to speak to it?
No, thank you. It's fine.
Anyone wish to speak against the motion? No. Another wonderful report of documents of information to keep us up to date. Thank you very much. And again, I urge the people out there to actually have a look at these things to see what's going on.
Interesting.
With that, we'll put it to the vote.
Can I just ask one quick question? We did a presentation to the Community Health Seniors Group on the 5th of November. Do we do any presentation with the school students to talk to them about their water wise and things like that?
Certainly through the chair, Councillors and Scomerton, we certainly do with developing our portfolio, I guess, of education material to better present these concepts to the school children. So we've developed a video for water and wastewater at the moment, and other materials, and there's also state government provided materials. So that's part of one of our operational plan objectives, is to get out and present at the schools, because that's where we find we'll get the best impact for that water-wise message. It's Daintree Village School, came and did a tour through the treatment plant last year, and we're engaging now that school's started again today. We're engaging with the schools to get out there. They have portions in the curriculum when they talk about the environment and water and waste and things like that. So we're targeting to get to the schools at those points.
Great.
Councillor Nolan?
Thank you. It's actually, so it's a bit of a story. It's actually interesting that you should bring that up, both of you, because this year I am teaching permanently a couple of days a week at the primary school. And the first unit, I'm teaching science, and the first unit is resources, Earth's resources, and water is obviously one of the big ones. And so I might hit you up on a tour or something like that. And definitely the video, it'll just work well with the grade. I've got a grade 1, 2s. So I love it.
Just, I'd like to see this water quality notifications table that we have in our quarterly reports. I'd like to see that made public, because people are under the impression the council takes, days to repair stuff, and these, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, 10 minutes. I'd like to see if we could somehow make that, and I'll put out on our website, if it's not on there, that, how quick council or water board are responding to these issues. I'd like to see it's a good news story for council, I think.
I'm sure we can work something out of that.
Do that, it's in the report, so the report's public, but.
Yeah, I understand that. People, not everyone reads the report.
Perhaps it could be something that goes into the CEO report with all those other graphs that we have. All right, yeah, absolutely. As you said, it's in the operational plan that we do a creation of an education for water, and I'm really looking forward to that coming out. We'll put that one to the vote. All those in favour? You want to add something else to it?
Just if you don't mind, I'm asking Mr. Thompson a question.
Yeah, sorry. Go for it.
Are there any, like we talked in the report about, water, conserving water, are there any plans in motion to reintroduce the tank system for toilets and watering and stuff when the new bills?
Through the chair, we don't have a direct policy or plan at the moment to be persuading households to be doing that. I think that's a broader planning, and I don't know if there's a voluntary thing or a per contribution, or there might be a bigger plan around that, but at the moment we're not pushing that concept. And it's something that we can look into. Definitely we've spoken about it before. It helps, but yeah, we move forward and we come back to a workshop or something and discuss it further if that's.
I'd like to see a policy like that reintroduced in new builds in particular. You work on the sewage lines before, bloody see how much water comes down. There's a lot of water getting flushed down the toilet.
I remember when I purchased my place, they just stopped doing that. They said the reason they stopped it is because up here the amount of time that we have between rainfalls, the tanks were emptying, and it was defeating the purpose. When there was plenty of water, they were full, and they just didn't hold enough to sustain a lengthy time. So it's certainly something worth talking in a workshop to see if it's worthwhile.
For sure.
Any other questions on that? Okay, we'll put that one to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried. 5.11, the operational plan progress report for period October to December. The recommendations that Council notes the progress of the implementation of the operational plan 2020-2021. I'm happy to move that one. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Thomason. Another very detailed plan of what we've been doing. Again, I don't know how many times I can say this. I urge the people to actually look at these documents, go online, download this, and just see what we are doing and how we're doing it and the progress that we're making. We've certainly had some wonderful achievements already with the employment of the Indigenous Liaison Officer who has been employed, which was part of it. We've got the Daintree Ferry consultation has been completed now. There are great things in here, and I urge people to have a look at it. If anyone would like to speak against it, if anyone other comments for councillors?
I wasn't being against.
That's all right. No further comments from councillors regarding? All right, we'll put that to the vote then. All those in favour? And that's carried. 5.12, the CEO report for the period October to December 2020. The recommendation is the council receives and notes the organisational report card and the report from the Chief Executive Officer for the period October to December 2020. If I could have a move, please, for that one. Councillor Zamataro, seconded by Councillor McEwen. Councillor Zamataro, would you like to say anything?
Oh, no, I think it's a good report. There's no one sick on that.
Anyone wish to speak against? No. Any further comments from any councillors?
Just another good report again, very detailed, and I think, you know, the community, I know, does enjoy reading and finding out what's happening, so.
Mr. Stormer, would you like an opportunity to say anything? No, but I just want to thank Mr. Stormer for the work that's in here. You know, again, it's very detailed, it covers off a lot of information and really does highlight the amount of work that council staff do, and they need to be commended for the efforts they put in. So with that, we'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. And I believe that closes the meeting today. The time is 10:56. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending.